Welcome back to Ask the Pro, where we answer your questions and get expert knowledge directly from the pros. Hey everybody, I got my good friend and pro, and I do mean pro, Michael Forster here. And just to give you a little bit about what we're doing today, we do want to be able to talk to some professionals about some of the things that are going on in these very strange times, and get some good solid advice. So I asked Michael to join us this morning. Michael is an attorney who started his own firm with his wife in 2012 in DC, and his practice includes assisting clients with probates, the entire probate process, drafting wills, trust, power of attorney, litigation involving real property issues, and he's also licensed in Virginia. Michael, welcome, 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 sir.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure speaking with you, Cedric.
Yes, thank you for making time, buddy. So I want to jump right into it because we've been getting a lot of questions. Obviously, people are concerned about property values and how this COVID-19 is going to affect their home purchase or sale, and them just staying in the home, and but then there's also some greater concerns about what life should look like and the things that they should be planning for at a time like this. Those things start to come up. They become a bit more real. So I have some questions that people have submitted, and I just want to ask you some of these things and get your expert advice on some of this. So first and foremost, generally speaking, have you received more requests for estate planning since the COVID-19 outbreak started?
I say it's been pretty consistent with the past. Some of the people have a little more urgency, but I'd say the number of calls for estate planning has been about the same. I think there are some people that are kind of it's more urgent for them, and then there are some people who have so many other things to worry about that it might not be top of mind at the moment to call an attorney. But so I'd say overall it's added up to be about average.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that obviously, as you said, this is something that people may or may not be considering because there's so much going on right now. But I mean, specifically speaking to this, uh, as you're watching the news every day, like the stats and everything are changing almost by the hour. Are there any special considerations that people should be making? Is this something that people should pay a bit more attention to given the circumstances right now?
Yeah, definitely. There, as far as estate planning goes, if you don't have anything in place, now is a great time to do it. Specifically, a healthcare power of attorney is something that you can name someone to make decisions on your behalf. Because I know things can happen quickly, and if you don't have that in place, it can be a problem. Obviously, we don't like to think about this, but having a will or a trust in place if you were to pass away would be something that I'd recommend for everyone. Or if you haven't done one in a while, to update it and make sure it says what you want it to say. Also, if you have beneficiaries on a life insurance policy or your retirement account, make sure those are up to date too. That would be a great idea, so that that's not some 10-year-old document where things have changed. The biggest concern is getting those documents executed if you don't have them already. I know a lot of my clients are elderly and they're rightfully nervous about leaving the house and going to an office or doing whatever. So we're trying to think of different ways to be able to execute a will or powers of attorney without having to have a risk of infection. So really, for the will, it needs to be signed in front of two witnesses, and they can't be people that are inherit in the will. So that's tricky.
Oh.
Yeah. So we've still done the occasional signing in the office by wiping everything down in advance and kind of passing the papers with gloves on and everything else.
Okay.
We've also explored the idea of doing home visits where we bring it to your home. You can sign it and then pass it back, and we can witness it. At least I can be one of the witnesses, and we can arrange a second one if you don't have one. So we're just trying to think of different ways to do what's a really challenging situation.
So, like most of us, you are implementing ways to change the business so that it can still meet the needs of the public amidst the crisis. Yeah.
Yeah. We're doing our best. The legal profession is kind of slow to change, and these rules have been in place probably since the Old English, when King Henry, whoever was running things. So, the being in someone's presence, they're not going to immediately pass a law and say, well, we have COVID-19, so now you can just witness by Skype. Unfortunately, it doesn't move that quickly as much as I would like it to. But, we've tried to create a space to just minimize the concerns. And we are a small operation, so it's basically my wife and myself to sort of minimize the chance of infection as well. There's no one else in the office but me at the moment,
right?
And that kind of thing. So
okay. So just to give a greater understanding, to get into a bit more detail, can you explain what goes into creating an estate plan for someone?
Sure. So there are a number of considerations of what to do. Number one is naming a personal representative. That would be also known as an executor. That's someone who would be in charge with filing your will with the probate office and being appointed in March and gathering up all your assets, paying your creditors, and then distributing the money to the heirs. So you want someone that you trust, and we usually recommend naming a backup in case that person passes away or is no longer available by the time that your will goes through. Mm-hmm. Also, just an inventory of what your assets are and what you think your assets will be when you pass away, and making sure that you distribute those to all the people that you want to. People ask about funeral arrangements or cremation or that kind of thing. You can list it in the will, but it's not required. Usually the will's not entered into probate until after that's all happened, but you can certainly list it in there.
Okay.
So that's for the will, and whether or not you want to do a trust, which is a document that can be used to avoid the probate process by placing all your items into a trust and naming a trustee. Some people prefer to avoid probate because it saves money and it's a private document, and it can be quicker. Right. The other consideration is if you have minor children, about how they receive the money. They can't be in charge of it until they turn 18. So you can name a trustee to manage it for them before they're 18, and whether you want to do what's called a testamentary trust, which is including a provision in the will that someone will be in charge of those assets even after they turn 18, so they don't get them all when they turn 18. So, and then in addition to the powers of attorney, like the medical power of attorney I discussed, and there's also a financial power of attorney for bank transactions, right, and things like that.
Okay. And to do this, how long does it generally take to put all that together?
We can work pretty quickly. Usually we talk to the clients, and within 24 or 48 hours, we try to turn the documents around for clients to review before they then sign them. They can let us know if there's any changes or anything, questions that they have, and then we just schedule a signing as soon as they're available, and we can figure out a way to do it. So the whole process can work pretty quickly. I've even had situations where clients have come in and I draft the documents while they're waiting there, and then we do it all in one meeting. I've done that before. Yeah. So just try to minimize, the time involved for all. So I'm trying to be as flexible as I can with people to make this as seamless a process as possible.
Oh, that's fantastic. Okay. And just to be clear, it sounds like you've taken a great deal of precautions to kind of help people in the midst of social distancing and everything. But we have not yet reached the point where this is something that people can do virtually.
Not exactly. No. You can do a virtual power of attorney. You can do a virtual notary now with some companies. But that, contrary to popular belief, people always think wills need to be notarized. They don't need to be notarized. They need the two witnesses. So you could do like a financial power of attorney and have a notary. The healthcare power of attorney needs two witnesses as well in the District of Columbia. Mm-hmm. so different states have different rules on their powers of attorney, but there's just no way to do it virtually, to do it properly, to do a will in the district or in DC or in Maryland or Virginia with virtually. It requires them to sign in the situation, and it's a digital presence. But you could do that. It just would, you'd risk having it be thrown out
because it's not court. Valid.
Yeah, if somebody was challenging it. So that's a risk that you'd be taking as far as it not being used at all.
Well, me personally, I think that what you've mentioned in terms of having a certain level of cleanliness within the office, minimizing the amount of individuals that are within the office, and even going so far as to handling those paper documents with gloves. Those are pretty good measures to keep everyone safe. So you just got to, make that one trip. Maybe people stand outside and do everything, so you get a nice breeze going. Makes it feel better.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And, we all have to continue to live our lives. I mean, people are still grocery shopping. The banks are still open.
Right.
There's a level of risk that is sort of necessary to continue to be a human being in the world. So all we can do is minimize those. And I think visiting this office and with the precautions that we're taking is about a minimum of risk as you can have by transacting business in the world. So that's, we just do our part to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah, but there's a minimum amount of risk that is required to continue to be a human being. I like that. And strictly speaking, by the numbers, coming to your office where there are two people is a lot safer than coming into a grocery store, which we all must do.
Right, exactly. You hand your credit card to the cashier or whatever else. You're having as much of an interaction, and they've been seeing 300 people that day.
Oh my God!
So
yeah.
I'm just at home with my wife and my son, who's not in school anymore, and we're doing everything we can.
You look healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. no dry coughs or fevers.
There you go.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
But, yeah.
So, speaking of such things, so if someone were to get sick and they were concerned that they didn't have a will in place, what advice would you give them?
If they got sick.
Yeah. If they got sick and then they were like, oh, geez, got to get a will now. Like, what advice would you give them?
That would be tricky. I guess I would say just to call an attorney, get it drafted, and figure out a way to maybe have two witnesses available, maybe in different rooms, and slide the paper back and forth, look through a window or something.
Okay.
To be able to still do a signing. Because you don't want to have it left to the DC. If you don't have a will, there's DC laws that control what happens, and it's pretty rare that they'll have it be exactly the way that you want. So if you can find some way to safely do it, I think that's what I'd recommend to people.
Yeah, and for those of you that are watching, Michael and I have worked together on a number of cases in DC, and it's better if you have made the arrangements yourself, because they can give you a lot of hell if you don't.
They can, and you can waive what's called, I might be getting a little technical here, but you can waive what's called bond, and bond is a form of insurance that a personal representative needs to cover all the heirs. Some people, their credit score isn't good enough, so they can't be personal representatives. So you could name somebody, so you could have somebody that would ideally be a personal representative, but because their credit score is low, they can't get a bond, they can't get appointed, and it just gets much more difficult. So I recommend pretty much for everybody that they have something in place, even if they might have changed their mind and change it 5-10 years down the line. At least you have something in place that's
right.
better than just the default.
Something's better than nothing. Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Okay, good to know. And I think you answered this already. Another question was, what's the absolute fastest someone can get a will written in the event of an emergency? And you said it could happen same day, right?
Yeah, it could happen same day. So, we're putting priority on the wills now. The courts are closed, so I have more time than usual for until May 1st. So anybody who gives me a call, I'd call them back that day, and we can get things done as soon as possible. Sometimes we have people who are, we had a client who was due with twins in 2 weeks, and we wanted to get everything done before they had to go, went into labor and went to the hospital. So we can definitely work quicker, especially if you tell us that it's, we should put a priority on it.
Yeah. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. And the last question here, a really big one. What additional advice do you have for someone who's concerned about being affected by the virus and in need of a will or estate planning quickly?
I'd say just call an attorney quickly, and somebody that you trust and has a good setup, and work through a creative way to do a signing that doesn't increase your risk of contracting the virus, and having it in place ahead of time, because if you get into a certain condition in a coma or certain things, it's too late at that point to have everything in place. So I'd say the sooner the better, as we're on the upward part of this curve that everyone's talking about. It may be harder to do later or impossible to do later. So I'd say the sooner the better.
Right. As we work to flatten the curve, as they say. I got you.
Right. Exactly.
Okay. Well, Michael, as always, fantastic information. I really appreciate you making the time. How can people get in contact with you?
So you can reach us by our phone number, which is area code 202-400-2489. You can go to our website, forsterlawfirm.com, and Forster spelled Forster. You can also email me, michael@forsterlawfirm.com. We even have a special estate planning for parents.com website for young parents. We do a lot of estate plans for people with young children to kind of deal with the situation of needing to distribute assets to minors. So any of those ways are a great way to reach me. So thank you so much for the opportunity. It's always great talking to you, Cedric.
Yeah, man. Real pleasure. Stay safe. Stay distanced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen. We're gonna go ahead and wrap here. Again, really appreciate your time, my good friend, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks. Same to you.
All right.